Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Elizabeth George, Director of Member Engagement and Chapter Development with the American Guild of Organists. And I'm so pleased to welcome you today to what I think is really going to be a very fun, interactive webinar about what everyone is doing for the upcoming year regarding chapter programming. And we were just, as we were getting up and doing a bit of rehearsing before I went live with this, we were all talking about, do you plan for the worst and anticipate the best? I think I said that correctly. But in just a few moments, you're going to hear from representatives of extra small, medium, and large chapters so that you'll really get a cross section of what people are planning. And I want this to be very interactive. So please, please, please do post comments and questions in the Q&A icon that's at the bottom of your screen. We want to hear from you. We want to know what you're doing. We want to hear, because you might have a great best practice that we really want everyone to know about. This is being recorded, so no need to take notes. Probably within 24 hours, it will be uploaded onto the chapter leadership toolkits, as well as underneath the education tab with the past webinars and handouts. So with us today, representing an extra small chapter from the Gateway Confluence chapter, is Renee Ziner. From the small chapter, small but mighty, we have Mary Eileen Johnston, who is representing Southeastern Pennsylvania. Our medium-sized chapter representatives, Garrett Martin is sub-dean of the Buffalo chapter, and Richard Clement is sub-dean of the North Shore chapter. And large chapters, we have two. We have Ronald Butz-Boomer, who is with Northern Virginia, and Zach Bauer, who is with the Charlotte chapter. So let's get started. Zach, go ahead and unmute yourself. You were just telling us about a really fun collaborative event that you are planning in October, and I think it'd be fun to hear about it.
Yes, ma'am. Hello, everyone. My name is Zach Boyer. I am the sub-dean of the Charlotte chapter of the AGO. And we, this coming September, are having a great event. Our kickoff event every year is our Progressive Dinner, where we travel to 3 different churches and present a recital at those different churches and also have a course of a meal. And this year, our theme is the world of weddings. And we are excited to offer this program where we'll do preludes at one church, processionals at another church, and recessionals at the last. And we're really, really excited about that. And we've created a great year of programming with young organists in mind. And, I've reached out to some young organists in our chapter and have asked them to perform at this event, and we're really excited to say that some of them have latched on and have said yes. So we are very excited and grateful that they will be participating.
It sounds like so much fun. I know, I remember this is such a tradition for the Charlotte chapter to do. And I neglected to say, you are a large chapter. I think we have about 100, you have about 150 members now. And
yes.
Something like that, yeah. Yeah, so anything over, I believe, 126, we consider large. And I know there are a few mega chapters, but in any event, that's, so you've got to, do you have a whole planning team that's working with you, or are you basically shouldering this yourself?
I'm basically doing that myself, but in addition to that, we have we are hosting a Pedals, Pipes, and Pizza in September as well, to really get into that young organist world, and we have a planning team in place for that.
Wonderful, wonderful, that's great. Richard, you were commenting, were you not, about some things that you're going to be doing? This is Richard Clement with the North Shore chapter, which is a medium-sized chapter.
Yes, thank you, Elizabeth. Yeah, the North Shore chapter is on the north side of Chicago. That's where we're located, and we have just over 100 members now. And similar to Zach and the Charlotte chapter, we have gotten in the habit of doing progressive sorts of events. We, rather than have food at each place, we'll choose 3 churches in some community that we haven't been to within our chapter for a while, and we'll spend maybe like a half an hour at each church, and we'll have 2 people play, demonstrate the organ somehow. We'll go from place to place, and then at the end we'll have some food together. Last year we had to do that virtually, which wasn't as much fun, but this year we're hoping we're going to be able to get back to actually physically being at the three churches. So that's just one thing that we have planned.
Oh, that's great. That's great. I know I do have a question here already. Regarding the progressive dinner, how does this work during COVID tide? Are you going to ask people to be masked, Zach? You need to unmute yourself.
Thank you. Our plan currently is we will ask people to be masked, but actually our executive committee meeting regarding our programming year is tonight, and we will be making our decisions in just a couple of hours. But from this subdean's perspective right now, I think the safest option would be to have everyone masked, and following the safest guidelines, but the most practical guidelines would be, unless you're actively eating or drinking, to remain masked in the church.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Mary Eileen, you've got a fun event coming up with the Theater Organ Society, do you not? Share a little bit about that with us. Okay, you're going to have to unmute yourself.
Well, hello. We're collaborating with the Theater Organ Society of the Delaware Valley. That doesn't mean Delaware, but in Pennsylvania and New Jersey and Delaware, we have a tri-state area, which is the Delaware Valley. So the Delaware Valley Theater Organ Society is housed at the Colonial Theater in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania, which is also the home of the movie The Blob. There's a mighty Wurlitzer there, and it has an accordion rank. Since I'm also an accordionist, in addition to being an organist, I thought, wouldn't it be fun to have this event? And lo and behold, they said yes. And the Colonial Theater is hosting us this Saturday for the first open bench since the elephant entered the room. And that's the Theater Organ Society from 10 to noon. And then from noon to 1, we have Rudy Lucenti taking the bench. As I say, being benched in music is a good thing. With no less than, I hope, 20 accordionists, men and women alike, and we're going to play the National Anthem together.
Okay, is anybody recording this? Because I mean, this is priceless. Really, seriously, somebody's got to.
I want to. There's been some discussion that some may not be comfortable with a recording, but I can't control what the audience is going to do. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
There you go. If you just have someone enthusiastic, go for it.
As far as collaborative efforts, I thought when I heard the young organist coming in, I thought, what better way to really reach out to my neighboring chapters in Delaware and South Jersey and Lehigh Valley, Philadelphia, of course, maybe even New York, Pittsburgh, Harrisburg, because I'm Southeastern Pennsylvania. And I thought, what a nice way to get ourselves together in a reciprocal way to, when we're reaching out to these young folks, to recommend that these other chapters could be their second, third, and fourth choices. So that's another collaborative effort.
That's great. Well, I'm going to go over to Garrett Martin, who's actually been very collaborative during this last 15 months. So Garrett, why don't you tell us what you have been doing and then what you are considering for the future?
Yeah, I think that for all of the AGO and also for church, lowercase c and capital C, that collaboration is sort of the way of the future, that none of us can do all the grand things we want to do on our own, and we can lean on each other to make those grand things happen. And that's sort of the wonderful thing that I think maybe one of the silver linings that has shown up during the season of COVID tide, that we were able to partner with the Buffalo chapter, partnered with the Rochester chapter, their dean, Matt Parsons, and their sub-dean, James Keeley. And we just sort of fell into place where we had a program a month, and we just sort of alternated back and forth between Buffalo and Rochester. And of course, this was all virtual during the last program year. But we were also able to offer some collaborations the way of, in February, we had a theater organist from Rochester that joined us here in Buffalo, in North Tonawanda, actually, recording on a Wurlitzer organ. And so that was shared not only with the Rochester chapter, but with the Rochester chapter of the American Theater Organ Society as well. So we're also partnering with the ATOS folks. And I think that even this evening, I've got some ideas about how we can go forward, because there are significant chapel organs at my church and at churches that are neighboring here that are often unheard because of the big organs that lie somewhere else in the respective church. And so we were actually talking about doing such a progressive evening that would feature those. And if we can't do those in person, we intend to still do those virtually. We were, Elizabeth, you mentioned how prepare for the worst and hope for the best. I've found that it's sort of easier to scale back than it is to scale up. So we're going to do everything two ways, everything in person and everything recorded. And if we need to drop the in-person portion of it, we still have an offering to make. Another sort of silver lining in this is that we're able to go to sort of outlying areas in Western New York that we normally would not ask people to drive more than an hour or sometimes further to a program, but we're able to visit these places virtually and hear some charming organs that I have never seen, I've never heard. And I think that our membership is going to really enjoy seeing part of our wonderful region that we haven't been able to access before.
Thank you. You know, I was talking with Ron Ziju, who is now the former dean of the Sacramento Valley chapter, and I think I might have even put this in a recent chapter newsletter, to really start budgeting for the year, putting, if you can, put a technology budget together, or if you really are limited as far as funding, select churches that may already have that AV available so that you can tag team with them, collaborate with them, so the costs will not be astronomical. So because I know sometimes it's daunting to think about doing this, let alone having people that can service as AV production, where you start with a live streaming, et cetera, et cetera. So it's helpful if you do have a church that you can select that might have that already set up. Renee, I want to go over to Renee Zeiner with Gateway Confluence, who is our extra small, not extra small sub-dean, extra small chapter, where they have 12 members. But you, well, I'm going to let you talk. So Renee, take the floor.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Yes, we're very small, 12 members, but we just started, we're just incorporated this past year. And it certainly is an odd year to have started that. To give you the geography, we're the Gateway Confluence is our name, and we're directly opposite across the river from St. Louis, Missouri. So we're very central, and though we're located on the Illinois side. And as we ponder what to do, our guiding principle, I think, is we want to reach out to the community, certainly the community of organists and musicians in what we call Metro East, but we elegantly are calling that Gateway Confluence. Confluence because of the three rivers that come together here. We also wish to reach out to our compatriots in the St. Louis chapter, which is a large chapter, not to poach, but to indicate that there are, in fact, events which occur on the other side of the river. Perhaps you'd like to come. So, but our guiding principle is very much, as we let people know what we have planned, and as we plan them, and I guess the real important thing is as we execute them, because a lot is up in the air. But our guiding principle will be, what can we say about our event that would convince you, being people in our community or on the St. Louis side, to want to attend? So we have a game of salesmanship to perform here. The big item in the room, of course, now is the Delta COVID issue. And so we thought things are released, the ship is afloat, but maybe not, we don't know. Regardless, our initial event will be a dedication of an organ in one of our communities. St. Paul's located in Lebanon, Illinois. And Scott Montgomery will be coming to play that. But even that, that requires planning and interaction with people who are involved in that church. So I'm not at the ground level of that, but I'm just wondering, what exactly can we do and can we not do? And of course, I'm thinking of practical issues like how many people can we permit in the church? Will they require to be masks, social distancing? I believe that we're planning to live stream this, et cetera. But in other words, there's complications. Oh, and before I forget, because we're new and when we reach out to the chapter, we are very grateful that AGO has the Year of the Young Organist, because we plan to use that as we communicate with people in our community to let them know that there is a new American Guild of Organists chapter. And one of the other things I think we're pondering, how do we do that? Do we just send out a letter, or do we go out and reach people by actually knocking on their door? I prefer the latter, but because then you have that human interaction and the touch. The problem with that is it's going to be very time consuming. Well, that's where we are. That's a thing that we're thinking with respect to how do we kind of put the chapter into motion. Now, one thing that we also did recently is we met as a group. I keep forgetting, we're such a small chapter that actually when we meet as a group, technically we have a meeting. So technically we have an event. So we are actually doing things, but I keep forgetting that. Anyway, we pondered some ideas, and those are the things I just want to go through quickly. These are ideas that we had. Maybe they'll be of benefit to the people who are listening to this webinar as you ponder what can we do. And some of these ideas I think are pretty nice. Okay, so when Scott Montgomery comes up, I know that we want to utilize his presence here by, let me see, the dedication is on a Sunday. We wish to use him on a Monday workshop. So we went through a list of possible topics, and this falls into the category of when we let people know that AGO, Gateway Confluence, will be having a workshop with a visitor, Scott Montgomery, that the topic is going to be the item that hopefully will draw you to come to it. And the thing is, we obviously need to communicate with Scott since he'll be the presenter. But here are just some ideas that we came up with for topics. And one of the things that came out of this as we developed this list is, lo and behold, we have the possibility, not the possibility, but we have a think list of items that we could incorporate maybe into a future event. In other words, it helps to think outside of the box. Regardless of the presenter, what are the things that we might want to see this person present on? So here's a list of things we came up with. Advanced registration. The organist, thinking outside the box, whatever that means. How to sound different. Or the organ is too loud. Or when you're looking at the console and all of its registrations, there might be too many options for you to think about. You might be overwhelmed. The acoustics. How often do you think of the acoustics? Tempo. Soundscape, which I think is probably the same thing.
I love that you did what I call, when I sometimes facilitate some strategic planning, I say, let's do some blue sky thinking. Let's just throw some ideas out there, and they may not be feasible, but it gets the juices flowing and you start thinking of things, and then you narrow it down and you narrow it down. You said, well, wait a second, we didn't think we could do that. We could. So I think you've got some exciting things planned, Renee. Ronald, we don't want to be rude. We do want to hear from you. Ronald is the sub-dean of the Northern Virginia chapter, which I believe has about 146 members the last time I looked. And I know you've got, well, you do a wonderful tri-chapter event, if you want to share that a little bit, and whatever else you care to talk about, if we're on the subject of collaborations.
Hello, thank you for inviting me here. And yes, the Northern Virginia chapter has annual collaborations with the Potomac and the District of Columbia chapters. And normally there's a pipe spectacular each year that is done. Yes.
Great. And you also were telling me, were you not, you were planning this fall to have, or a concert that was going to include some young organists? Was that something you had talked about?
Yes, we're making every effort to also include young organists in our programs, including the installation of officers through also member recitals. And so that is one of our focuses, is focusing on young organists.
That's great. I think we all know that this is our lifesaver. This is the future of the AGO. Our largest membership segment, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with it, is our special members. But we need to grow our young organist membership to keep this association afloat. So I'm so grateful to the National Council for supporting this initiative and the money that they've invested in it. And it's only going to work as it's only going to be as successful as our chapters can make it successful, because we know these are grassroots efforts. And so everything, I really appreciate everything you have all talked about that might include young organists in your programming. Richard, what else does North Shore have planned for this year?
One event that might be of interest to people that sort of ties together a lot of themes is we are going to mark the 125th anniversary of the AGO with a program that's going to be, it's going to be a hybrid of a video and live performance. So that we'll meet at our local church. We'll have some people that are scheduled to play some pieces that are associated with the AGO in some way, still to be determined, you know, composed by prominent AGO members, or that's the most likely sort of scenario. And then we're hoping to also have a video screen there too, where we can include maybe some video performances of people that aren't comfortable being there, or maybe with the help of the AGO to identify some interesting archival video, you know, maybe of important people from the past in the AGO that we could play during the program. We could maybe sing some hymns that were composed by prominent AGO people. That's a program that might be
on behalf of National, thanks for thinking of planning such a great birthday party. And I know that Mary Eileen would like to say something, so I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself.
Thank you. Just throwing this out there, I'm very fortunate to have a wonderful instrument at my home of residence, Oregon, and a very supportive pastor who, when we were planning a mandolin and organ concert for May 2020, we actually had to downsize it to a married couple and 2 young organists, both 23 years old in Philadelphia and very promising. That took place in December, thanks to National for helping us and supporting it. And that's viewable on Southeastern PA AGO, sepaAGO.org, and on YouTube. Ongoing, with the success of that concert, which took place in early December, and 70 folks attended, socially distanced. It's a huge stone Gothic church in the main line, Pennsylvania. It was encouraging to me that the pastor wanted to do more. In fact, he wanted to do a series. So since then, we had another one of the young organists come back to a May concert this year. The second one who played at that concert in December made a recording of a new organ work by a Curtis student, and he himself is a Curtis student. I have a North Virginia chapter concert AGO member coming to do a concert in October. And then next spring, we have 2 more concerts scheduled that we've been waiting, and it will be 2 years in the making.
Oh, well, that sounds exciting. And I know, Zach, you wanted to comment on something.
I did. We're going back to, somebody was talking about, you know, cross-chapter communication and collaboration. And something that we're really excited about doing is coming up this March, if all goes well. We at the Charlotte chapter have, we're going to take a little day trip on a Saturday to Hickory, North Carolina, which is kind of in between 3 medium, small, large size chapters in North Carolina. And we're inviting the Blue Ridge, the Western North Carolina chapter and the Piedmont chapter to participate with us. And we're going to go see just a lot of different organs over in Hickory, and, you know, just invite anyone who wants to come with us. One of which was recently featured on the AGO magazine at Corinth Reformed Church. And we're just really excited because, you know, in our profession, it's really hard for us to meet new people, especially on the weekends when everybody travels. And so we're really excited to just go and meet people. And I know we had talked about doing some more programs involving just reaching out and meeting people. And we're really excited about doing that. So that was just something I wanted to share, that hopefully, you know, we can all take that from our chapter to your chapters, that, you know, we don't have to keep things just inside our little Charlotte bubble. We want to reach out and involve other people in North Carolina as well.
I think if there's one word that has just been forefront during these last 15 months, and I think is going to contribute to successful events, is collaboration on so many different levels. It helps brand the AGO. It takes some of the planning off of just one person's shoulders. And I think it can grow your audience. And so I'm so excited about this. I really, really am very, very excited. Does anybody, have you ever done any just pure networking events where you might, I don't know, meet up at a Starbucks or go to a happy hour and there's absolutely no music involved? Anybody want to share?
I can share
Okay.
right quick. So also recently in the Charlotte chapter, with us being such a large size chapter, we've developed a new organizational system called our AGO communities. And what that is basically we've set apart the different areas of Charlotte into 10 different groups, because we have members across the entire, you know, however many miles Charlotte is, it's very spread out. And we're using those community groups to get connected with people, you know, who may not be as connected with the AGO as we want them to be, members and non-members, and to recruit new members. And we're hoping that these community group coordinators, because each community group has its own coordinator, we're hoping that they are able to, you know, reach out to these members and, you know, recruit new members, and also just host events with these members to just get to know each other, because it's really hard for them to get to know each other at such a large chapter.
Meet and greet. I think that's great too. Ronald, I know, I remember you telling me, I remember when at one point, I think we had your chapter, we had Potomac and we had District of Columbia on, and you all have a lot of the same members, but it's, what was it? There's this dividing line in Washington that separates, it's almost like it's an invisible line between, what was it, Northern Virginia or Potomac or Washington, how people just refuse to travel very far. And it really wasn't that far.
It's the traffic over the Potomac River.
Got it.
Quite challenging in the Northern Virginia area.
We always,
There's bridges.
Bridges. So you really have bridges to cross. We're not saying this metaphorically. We're saying it realistically. Well, you, Ron, you put together actually some really good checklist things of some other ideas. And I wondered if you wanted to share some of those with us.
Be glad to. This is just sharing sort of what we did, putting together a program for this last year and the next year. The main thing was forming a program committee with the formation and recruiting from chapter members of 4 persons for a program committee. We found that important. But really important is finding an online technology officer and having a plan B for everything already set in place. That, I guess, is one of the most important things, and glad that we've been working on that very hard. Along with that, trying to keep within budget. So you have to have a budget, setting a chapter budget where the expenditures, our approach was where the expenditures and programs reflected the estimated annual income from the chapter portion of the annual membership dues, and the rest of it go into reserves so you don't spend it all. But really important is engaging the members of the chapters, volunteers. And so we have a lot of new board members, officers, and we have a members recital scheduled. On collaborations, we have Peabody Conservatory students in recital coming up, and looking very much forward to that. And then we are collaborating with 2 churches in Northern Virginia that are having 2 major organ installations. And so we'll have co-sponsored events with Todd Wilson and Kimberly Marshall. And then there's the long-standing tradition of collaborations with other chapters, the Potomac District of Columbia. And so we will have Jeremy Philsell for the Pipe Spectacular coming up. That's hosted by the Potomac. And we also collaborated with the Winchester chapter, our neighbor right by, and the Potomac for a chapter level organ competition. Let's see, that's the AGO Quimby RCYO. And our winner went on and won the regional. And so that brings us into promoting young organists. And I just got a letter, which I still need to respond to, that seems that all of the Commonwealth of Virginia is organizing an online event for young organists only. And so I'm very pleased to see that. And then we do still during this time keep working on education with a certification and education committee formed, and just awarded a CAGO person who accomplished that. And I guess the best thing that we found, one of the questions earlier were asking, what have we found good out of the past year? Well, we've increased the involvement of chapter members participating and seem to be enjoying having our meetings online, and that makes it easier for the meetings. And we were pleased that we reached 7,200 people in our online Pipe Spectacular. And so I would say that was, I guess, one of the better things that came out of it. Thanks for letting me kind of share what we're doing.
That's exciting. And my good friend, hey, George from Durham Chapel Hill, it's nice to see your comments. It's very important to get new blood on the program committee periodically. Yeah. And I'm trying to think of what chapter it is that has really made a dedicated effort to get young organists serving as officers. They just made the commitment that they wanted to, and they didn't want them to feel intimidated. You know, if the desire and the interest is there, you can be trained. We all can help each other. National's got your back. You've got regional counselors. You've got district conveners. So I think that's an important part to remember as well. How are you all promoting your events? Anybody want to start? Zach?
So in addition to our newsletter that we send out, we've gotten in the habit, you know, we do a monthly newsletter, but then we've gotten in the habit, since we use MailChimp, of just, you know, the day before an event, we just send a reminder, because we know that people have busy lives and nobody is going to remember. And we've had a lot of luck with that from our summer recital series that we do every year. But in addition, you know, since taking over as subdean this past July, I have implemented a new, not new, but we've used resources that we haven't used before. One of them being Canva, which is a great way to make really nice flyers, excuse me. And, you know, part of my view on advertising for an event is to not give all of the details, leave a little bit of room for wonder in that, and say, make people want to come. Don't say this is what you're going to see. It's just say you might see this, you might see that, all of this stuff. And I don't know if it's possible to share screen, Elizabeth.
Yeah, let me make you a co-host. Forgive me, I forgot
So
to do that with
sorry.
all of you. No, there you go. Okay, you
Thank
should have screen
you.
privileges now.
Let's see here. Perfect. Share screen. And so these are just 3 of the flyers that we have been using, that we have done. And this is the one for our progressive dinner, and just say the information, here's the day, here's the time, and here are the churches we're going to go to. And then I made that one look more formal because it's our progressive dinner. We're talking about weddings, all of that stuff. And then for our Petals, Pipes, and Pizza, a little bit more fun, getting all of the kids out there. And then just another one, our pipe talks that we're going to be having, thanks to the National AGO for giving us that idea about just different topics that we can all always learn more about. So that's a great program to use, Canva, and I highly recommend it, and it's free. So.
I just put the website address in the chat box. Yeah, it's great. And they have templates. You can use their templates. You can, for example, today I like this pipe background that I have, but I said, sure there has to be a way I can get our logo onto this. So it took me about 15 minutes to figure out. Probably would have taken one of you 5 seconds. But so let's talk a little bit about social media. And I think Renee might be one of the knowledge experts that could talk a little bit about this. If you want to just share, Renee, are you comfortable doing that?
Sure. It's rather obvious in the sense that when information comes out it goes. Actually, let me backtrack. Social media, I guess we're talking Facebook for the most part.
Yeah.
I prefer actually to think of it in a larger sense is more communications, to respect the need to send information out so that it's kind of readily available, but also so that it's known. Now for our small chapter, it's relatively straightforward. There are so few of us, we all know what's going on anyway. But let me just ping pong off St. Louis, because I handle social media for St. Louis as well. And actually, I think this is going to apply for any chapter. So everybody pay attention. As you become available of information, send it on your Facebook page. You cannot possibly overindulge people. You cannot possibly oversaturate, because you're actually fighting Facebook. Facebook has an algorithm in place where it throttles the information that goes out. Not everybody who likes your page is going to see what you send out. Hence the need really for other communication, like a chapter newsletter or perhaps a weekly email blast. However you want to set it up, based on the size of your chapter. Collaboration is very useful because suddenly you can think of things like phone trees and whatnot. Personally, I think that the human touch, like a phone tree or whatever, is critical. Really for the last year, where we've not really seen normal communication. We've not had normal face-to-face communication. So the more that you do that, the better. And then what I do is, as we're planning the year, also on the St. Louis side, whatever comes up, I will create an event. I will also, as a courtesy to people who may not be on Facebook, but have an event, and it has something to do with the organ, even tangentially, it might be a chamber concert, for example, that they might be doing. As a courtesy, I'm happy to set up an event on Facebook so that that's promotable. So does that do it?
Great. Actually, Shannon Four, who did a webinar last month on really how to get people to your Facebook page through the algorithms, through ads, is coming back in another week. We'll see how the attendance goes. If not, we may postpone it to September, but it's really going to talk about how to promote an event on your Facebook page, and then talk a little bit about creating a YouTube account. But so we've got a couple of comments over here. Angelina says TikTok. Well, I don't know how many of you saw, I think it was Wesley Hall's wonderful TikTok of promoting the pipe organ encounters, the virtual pipe organ encounters. It was just so charming. And he and I have a conversation scheduled for this week because I want him to do something fun for the Year of the Young Organist. So I'm hoping that he will do that. But Stephen Bartlett, Facebook doesn't work for young organists. So Stephen, you feel that Instagram might be more palatable, or more young organists are more comfortable with that? I know that our Year of the Young Organist Committee, which we fondly refer to as Yo-Yo, because everything has to have an acronym at the AGO. I said, Yo-Yo, okay, as long as we don't, publicly say it this way, which I've just done. But they have two people that each week, one's in charge of Instagram and one is in charge of Facebook, and they are consistently sharing information. And that's, I think, pretty much how they're promoting the webinars, and they had their first one yesterday. So I do think that that Facebook can play a very critical part. And it's interesting because I know when we did our Chapter Insight survey earlier this spring, when we asked, did your chapter have a Facebook page, probably 80% said yes. But when we looked at some of these, they hadn't been updated for about 3 or 4 years. So that's the other part, is getting somebody who's comfortable in being able to update it and be in charge of promotions. Any other comments about that anybody wants to say? Zach?
Something that we've actually seen a lot of success in recently has been not only our Facebook page, but we've actually implemented a Facebook group that's run by the page. And we, right now we only have, of our 170 members, we only have about 50, 60 people in it, because of course everyone's not on Facebook. But it's a great way for people to get connected. And, our publicity officer posts things in there every week. And, every Monday she asks, how did everybody do this past weekend? Anything go wrong that you didn't expect, all this stuff. And it's just a place for all of us to be human and, experience that with each other on a more personal level. And we've loved it. So I highly recommend the Facebook group in addition to the page.
I think that's great. I think that's a great idea. I think even if you're doing it virtually, the human connection is so important. So whenever you can get that sense of community, it's critical. It really is critical. So we haven't really discussed, though we've danced around it a little bit, the elephant in the room, and that is the contingency planning if this Delta variant does continue to grow. And I don't know if anybody wants to jump in with some ideas about what they will do. Garrett, did you say you've got live streaming as a backup, or you're hoping to have that?
Yeah, that's sort of our backup plan for everything. And there's still a few events that we're going to do virtually only this year, sort of taking off from what we did for our 2020 to 2021 program year. We got a lot of viewership on a lot of things, and actually more viewership than we would have ever had for a program that was live and in person. So we're going to take some of those lessons that we learned and use them as we go forward, probably this year and even beyond.
I think that's great. I wouldn't throw the virtual out the window, because as you just said, you grow a larger audience, and as well, think of some of your older members that don't drive at nighttime, or who can't get to events that they used to so enjoy going to. So I think that this technology is not going away. In fact, I have been asking, and I know that they will be planning. There's a wonderful planning team who's planning our 2022 National Convention in Seattle, and saying there's going to have to be a virtual component to this, maybe not the workshops, but some of the performances and the recitals. We've had such success with 2 consecutive years of Organ Fest, where people just, there was such joy. There were so many comments about, I never would have been able to afford to go to a national convention. This was such a great way. I saw more people in the Zoom rooms, because we were moving people around Zoom rooms, than I would have possibly seen at the convention. So I think there's something that is good to take that into consideration. And I can tell you right now, lessons learned from technology for those of you who are brave enough to join us for our first virtual leadership training conference this past January. We certainly learned a lot about what Zoom has as far as its capabilities and what it doesn't have. And I will never personally try to put people into 17 consecutive breakouts again in my life. However, we are looking at production companies, and we're probably going to invest in some money so that we can really make us this. We're going to do another virtual. We can invite so many more people to this than we can flying a smaller group to wherever. That's just, prohibitively expensive. So we are in the process now of interviewing with some production AV companies to talk about ramping this up so that we all don't, sit there terrified about, going live on Zoom and all the things that can go wrong from a production standpoint. But, if you don't try, you'll never know. So I encourage all of you to do some blue sky thinking about maybe things you've never even thought about doing. Oh, Zach, you had answered some questions here. As a Facebook group for members only, a private group, and you said so yours is a members only group, right? Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Well, what else haven't we talked about? Anything else that we did not go over that might be interesting for people to know, or thoughts that you suddenly had that you'd want to share? Please raise your hand if you'd like to, or if we
I
haven't.
know a little bit about budget and about using Facebook and those types of things.
Okay.
One thing that we did last year is we sponsored a few of our Facebook events after the video was ready and when it went live, and it tripled or quadrupled the engagement that we had on those videos. And it was only $25 or $50 per event that we sponsored. So that was a very small investment, and we think that we got a great return on that viewership wise. So that's just something that is a very easy, very passive thing to do to quickly and easily multiply your viewership on online events.
Excellent. Well, thank you for sharing that. Yes, Stephen Bartlett, we know some people think that young organists tell us that Facebook is for dinosaurs. I don't think that we have any dinosaurs present on this webinar today, nor do we have in our audience. You have to know your audience, right? So just as I've been saying, there's no one size fits all membership. And we're talking a lot at AG about there's no one size fits all chapter. And one of the initiatives that we're talking about, I won't digress too much, is really how do we help those extra small chapters that have 12 and under members to stay connected without the leadership responsibilities of recycling the same, because they have such a small volunteer pool of chapter leaders, of recycling the same people every year. Do you need to have a dean? Could you just be a community of people who love to get together and play the organ for each other and maybe do a recital and have that wonderful, that intangible, that wonderful feeling of being with like-minded people? And I think that is what membership in an association is all about, is that we all have each other's back, and we may not get that support in our day-to-day jobs, but knowing that we have others who are passionate about what we are passionate about is, I think, why people join the AGO and other associations. So in any event, I just wanted to talk a little bit about that. Let me see, were there any other questions here? Well, I would be remiss if I didn't. I'm going to share my screen, if I may, for a second. Since we've talked a lot about the Year of the Young Organist. So we have put a tip in, we started in July. We had one in August, and we created a QR code. And in September, we've got the flyer now that you can use. So you can just download this with the QR code. So I'm going to have to come up with something really clever for October. And if anybody has some fun thoughts, let me know. So here's where we are. And the whole point of this is we want our chapters to be engaged, and we want you guys to be able to win $1,000 for your chapter, which I don't think is that's a nice bit of chunk change to have. So we're a month behind simply because of calculations and the way our database works. Small chapters, Cherry Hill and Arkansas chapters are tied with a net growth of 4 new young organists. Net growth means that if you've recruited for, say, 8 young organists, but you lost 4 of them, your net growth is 4. And the medium chapter, Denver Rocky Hill, has 9 new organists. Bravo, Denver Rocky Hill, and Baltimore has 4 new young organists. Now, I know there are many more of you that have since then recruited them. And as we've shared, you can go into OnCard each month, pull up who your new young organists are and reach out to them. We'll be doing that, but we hope to update this page every month so you can kind of see who's in the lead and we can get a little bit of competition going on here. Well, I want to thank everybody for coming today. We do hope to have our next webinar. I believe it is on, one second, let me just tell you right now. Our next webinar is going to be on August 23rd, Growing Your Membership, as I said, with Shannon Four. And again, he's going to take it from, we had a deep dive into how to grow your audience on Facebook. So he's going to talk about promoting events on Facebook and then how to set up a YouTube page. So that's on the 23rd. It's going to be 6 p.m., a little later in the evening. And if we do not get a large turnout of registration ahead of time, what I will do is I'm going to just postpone this till September, where we hopefully will have more people that can participate. But I want to thank Garrett. I want to thank Mary Eileen. I want to thank Zach. I want to thank Ronald. I want to thank Renee and all of you today who participated in this. You know, we learn from our peers. That's the greatest way I think all of us can learn, is to share our thoughts, our ideas, our practices. And so let's keep this going. If you have ideas for another webinar that you'd like to see, please email me, elizabeth.george@AGOHQ. So I want to thank you all. Thank you to our panelists and our participants. And I am going to stop our recording and say